And this is for all of you who want to go into a little more detail and go into a couple of subjects that we are reluctant to mention or need a little more detailed treatment during America's Mayor Live. Maybe we'll begin with an analysis of the election of 2024. Now that Tim Scott has pulled out, we're getting into the categories where you can start seeing decisions getting made, right? So we have candidates. I mean, unless you want to consider Christie a candidate, I don't. And I think every time he appears at a debate, he marginalizes himself more and more by being so nasty. So you got three candidates, right? You got the one that's way ahead, Donald Trump, right? You've got the number two is, I still think it's probably DeSantis, but maybe not. And you've got Nikki Haley, who, if she's going to have a chance, is going to have registered sometime this week some kind of big jump in the polls, because she got favored treatment at the debate. In other words, the media decided she won the debate, and I think on purpose, and a lot of people complimented the moderators of the debate for being much kinder to Republicans than they normally are. Well, they were kinder to Republicans because these are the people that hopefully, from their point of view, can knock off Trump. So don't get all squishy on the media. They're no different than they've ever been. You put Trump up there, or one of these people becomes the candidate, they'll rip their heart out. Remember the way Welker was during the with Biden and Trump. It's the one in which Biden defamed me, for which I'm suing him, in which he called me a Russian pawn, knowing that the hard drive, which had already come out at that point, was completely legitimate, had lied, not only by the FBI, but by Hunter's own lawyer. So to make an argument that was Russian disinformation was what we call a lie. It is very, very damaging to reputation to call someone basically a communist spy, except Biden, because he just ignores it. And the Democrats pretend that it isn't true. I mean, what are they? I have a hard time understanding how a decent Democrat can tolerate this. How can they tolerate a president like this? I mean, he clearly is a crook. He clearly is a traitor. He clearly is demented and incompetent. God almighty, he can't get through a sentence. He's got the world in unbelievable turmoil, got the country in unbelievable turmoil, financial as well as other. He's got a society that's deteriorating so fast it almost seems like it's an asteroid, crashing into nowhere. Our schools are being taken over the way, so there'll be little Biden schools. So people are taught to question their gender rather than to add numbers. So what do Democrats think? So I say that this is part of a long communist process to undermine this country, to take it over. And then it all came together at some point with Obama and Klaus Schwab and who am I missing in that group, who want one world, who have a great deal, for their own reasons, Soros, of course. They for one reason or another, they've got a great antipathy, a great hatred for American nationalism. Obama has a great, in general, because this whole thing about colonializers and colonial is the one thing he acquired from his father, who he met for about 2 minutes. If that is his father. I mean, I think it is, right? That pretty much was established that that guy was his father, although he was married to another woman at the time that he was married to his mother, and then disappeared. And he really was brought up by a Muslim father in the Muslim religion, which he lists as his religion when he goes to high school. And it sure sounds like he's a Muslim. When you listen to him, the sympathies and the ridiculous things that he does, like giving all that money to Iran, who are dedicated to killing us. Seems like his loyalties are to Muslims rather than to his own citizens. You know, a lot of people say, well, this is really about Joe. It is. Joe is the top of the crime family. But the really bad guy here is Obama. Obama is really the problem, I think. And I think he's calling the shots now because there's no way that Joe, you watch him any way he can sit through those meetings and make decisions. And they all seem to be exactly Biden's policies, and particularly this love affair with Iran. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And I do not understand the hatred for Israel. Now, I don't think Biden ever had a Biden would say and do about Israel whatever he was told or whatever he thought was the smart thing for Democrats to do. Do I think he's anti-Semitic? He's racist for sure. I don't know that I've heard as many statements from him that would make it clear that he was anti-Semitic. I don't think he cares very much because I think he is a massive pathological narcissist. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done to his son what he did, or he wouldn't do to his granddaughter now what he does. But I don't know that he's an anti-Semite. There's no doubt he's anti-black and has a problem with black people. I mean, all you got to do is listen to comments like the first clean black was Barack Obama. Now, what's dirty about? I mean, I don't like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, but they're not dirty. I wouldn't have clean black. That's ridiculous. It's the kind of ridiculous, irrational statement that comes from a racist mind. Or I wouldn't I don't want to send my children to school in the jungle. Jungle? I mean, I have lots of black communities in New York. I went to high school in one. Bedford-Stuyvesant. I never thought it was the jungle. If I did, I'd have, been flying through trees like Tarzan. But what the hell's wrong with him? What's wrong with you for having voted for him? If any of you voted for him, please examine yourself and tell me what's wrong with you. I've had any number of people come up to me doing confessions. People who said, the minute he began, some of them say, the minute he began being president, I realized it was a mistake. And then some of them, it took a while, but I realized it was a mistake. And some of them said, now that I compare what it was like under Trump, and that Trump was much better president than I thought. And some of them say, I still don't like Trump, but gosh almighty, he's a heck of a lot better than Biden. Or they'll even tell me, I still don't like Trump, but he's a heck of a lot better than Biden, DeSantis, and who thinks 50% of the Palestinians should just kind of mosey into the country. I don't know if she really believes that. See, that's the problem, though. We need a president who really believes, who's real. We don't need another artificial Bullard. We got way too many of them. So there are going to be some real possibilities this time. The 2 seats have opened up in New York that Republicans can pick up. One of them is the 26th district in Buffalo. And the other is the number of that district, the 5th or the 6th or the 7th. No. It's up in Westchester. But it's the one that's held by Pat Ryan, who won it very, very, very close, and is being challenged by an excellent candidate named Allison Esposito, who was a New York City detective and police officer who ran with Zeldin. She ran as the lieutenant governor, and of course they ran a very, very good race, right? Zeldin lost by only 4%, which is the closest anyone's gotten, closest Republican anyone got since George Pataki was governor. And since then, the Republicans were just getting wiped out. And I would say that Zeldin gets most of the credit for that, but she sure was a creditable teammate for him, and comes into it with pretty good name recognition, and he comes into it with very bad numbers, which I'm trying to find here. I have this somewhere with a poll that makes it going in an even race is not a good idea. It's not a good idea to be going into a race with even numbers. And his approval rating, I think Ryan's approval rating is like 34%. So I would say that is a district that she could win. I'd have to look to see whether Trump won it in 20. It's along the Hudson River. I'm going to say probably yes. I'm going to say he probably won it in 20. Close. We almost won it against Ryan in the House race in 22. We won the surrounding districts, which is one of the reasons why we took the House back. Remember, we have a 3-vote margin, and we took 4 or 5 seats here in New York, flipped them. And now we get to flip possibly 2 more. And the other 4 or 5, I mean, most of them are in pretty damn good shape. Certainly the election last week. The election last week turned out to be a very strong election in New York for Republicans. We took over Suffolk County, took over the major executive position in Suffolk County for the first time in like 25 years. We won the legislative positions there. We won legislative positions all through the Hudson Valley, where this is. So even though they might not have been great in other parts of the country, like in Virginia, this was a big grassroots win for Republicans. So to have 2 seats come up, one in the lower part of the state along the Hudson Valley and the other up in Buffalo, possibilities that we can win them. Should we have to give back one of the 2, particularly with redistricting, this augurs well for New York being able to hold on to the margin it has in New York and maybe build it a little, which would help the national numbers really, really effectively. So what do you think, Ted, of? And this is kind of sensitive for me to talk about. But why is the Pope removing this bishop? Why is the Pope removing this bishop? I don't get it. The bishop is being removed because he's too traditional.
There must be something else going on here.
There's nothing in the articles that suggest what it is. Like, what's the doctrinal? There's no suggestion of impropriety. The thing that has been plaguing the church up until now. There's no suggestion of not being tough or involved with young men or that kind of thing. It seems to be doctrinal, and he is a what would you call him? A traditionalist. He's a the difficulties are in removing him. I don't know what they are. And he wouldn't go. He said, "I'm not resigning. You gotta fire me, Pope." And the Pope did. And we don't have much of an explanation of it.
I mean,
that's kind of disconcerting. I would think the Catholic Church owes it to American Catholics to explain to us why he removed a bishop.
So this is of course, news that we're getting to.
Yeah, and these people don't understand the Catholic Church, so they get it all screwed up. Okay.
The Vatican has removed from a conservative U.S. bishop who's been openly critical of Pope Francis. Joseph Strickland, until yesterday, had served as bishop in eastern Texas for more than a decade.
Pretty traditional place, by the way.
He's criticized the Pope for steps that make the church, this is again according to NPR, so take this with a grain of salt, but this man has been critical of the current Pope and, according to NPR, the Pope's efforts to make the church more, which is interesting. And so apparently this is what the Vatican took odds with. Joseph, at the time, Bishop Strickland, said that he thinks we've got to be clear about where the disorders are because we're living in a time when the disorder is carrying the day. So the question is, what is he referring to as these disorders? And, of course, he may have been referring to...
I think there's a disagreement.
The LGBTQ movement.
There may be a disagreement over that. But, I mean, the church doesn't permit gay marriage. Right? I don't think.
Yeah.
It may at some point. I mean, the Episcopalian Church pretty much does now, except for the highest form of Episcopalianism. Most of the churches do gay marriage. The Catholic Church doesn't. Don't know if the Greek Church does. It probably doesn't either. So I don't know what it is. I really would like an explanation of what are the doctrines that he doesn't agree with. The church does not allow gay marriage, I'm sure. I guess there might have been some priests, and I may have it confused with the Episcopal Church. Excuse me if I do, but there may be some priests that have been allowed to bless gay unions. And now I'm really purely guessing and looking around for an explanation. And he may have had problems with that because blessing a gay union, maybe he would consider that public endorsement of sin. I mean, being gay or lesbian is, I'm going to tell you my knowledge, Catholic moral theology, which is pretty damn good. Being gay or lesbian is not a sin. That's what you are. That's who you are. Any more than being heterosexual is. It's how and when you perform the sexual act that becomes the sin. So, and it's the same for gays, lesbians, and heterosexuals, except there's a catch-22 for gays and lesbians. They can't get married. So the only way a Catholic can have legitimate sexual union that is not a sin is within marriage. You cannot have pre-mix or post-marital sex. You've got to be married to have sex. So if you are gay and lesbian and you want to be a devout Catholic, you have to be willing to forego sex for the rest of your life. And if you do, there's no judgment about. There's nothing wrong with your union. Now, probably there are a group of Catholics that feel if you are living in a relationship that is or appears to be like marriage, you're giving a bad example. And that most people would not be able to live in that relationship without there being sex, and sex is a sin. And then there are people that believe that homosexual sex is more of a sin than heterosexual sex because it violates the natural law. Now, I don't know if it does or it doesn't violate the natural law. The natural law is a very ephemeral concept because it sort of is the law that's obvious, but given the fact that two people can look at something like this and say that it is unnatural for a man and a man to have sex. Other people can look at it and say, no, it's not. No, it's not. Been going on forever. So this is very complicated. I really would like to know what the issues are. And this Pope, I think, is trying to embrace gays and lesbians, want to, or doesn't feel that the church can go so far as gay marriage. But he'll go up to the doorstep of it to try to make gay people feel respected and cared for and loved in the Catholic Church, although they have to abstain, which is, for many people, highly unrealistic. But I think it would help the church and help everyone else if they would be a little more open about it and a little more honest about it. Half the people probably think it's over going after little boys or something. Problem with that, and bishops were removed for that reason. So I thought I would take the people that are listening to Confidential in case they didn't see America's Mayor live, and also it gives me a chance to do it in a little more detail to show them what the map I really wanted, but I haven't gotten it in time. I think I'll have it tomorrow. The map I really wanted was the Middle East. I want to show you how small Israel is. Israel is about the size of New Jersey, except New Jersey doesn't have the Palestinian Authority. A lot of Israel was given away when Israel gave back what it conquered, which Rudolph Giuliani always thought was a mistake. They wouldn't have got that property back from me if I wanted in a war. No way. And not without some seriousness in it. And not until they demonstrated for 20 years that they could be peaceful. But in the middle of killing us or killing my people, I'm sure not going to give them all that property back. And that's why I think this whole idea that Biden and stinking Blinken have, that Israel should not have at least some interim governing authority in Gaza is crazy, because the Palestinian Authority is pretty much just as bad as Hamas. They were Hamas and merged from terrorists into crooks. They could become terrorists again. So, Ted, can we work on this so we get a nice little picture of my new acquisition here? Our new acquisition, which Ted and I put together today.
Oh, yeah.
But I can stand up if that helps.
No.
So this is a map just of Israel. As I said, we're going to get one. We're going to get one of. I just want to make sure on the map we have got Lebanon in it, because that will be our point. And then eat, because that gets you the whole country. Okay. So it reminds you of New Jersey too, because it's sort of shaped like New Jersey, right? It looks like a long state north to south and very narrow east to west. In the center, it sort of expands here in the desert. So this is Israel. This is kind of the center of Israel here. This is the center of it. This would be the central area where that circle would have encompassed Jerusalem, Tel Aviv. The northern part of Israel borders on Lebanon and Syria, both mortal enemies. Lebanon wasn't always a mortal enemy. Lebanon, when it was part Christian and part Muslim, was a semi behind the scenes ally of Israel. But with the destruction and the extermination and the expulsion of all the Christians from Lebanon, which Christianity somehow doesn't react to. It's okay if you do a semi-genocide on Christians, and the Muslims did in Lebanon. I have no idea why there isn't more made of that, but Ain't too many Christians left in Lebanon right now that are living. A lot of bodies there that are buried, and a lot of people have run away. Lebanon is now controlled by Hezbollah, which is controlled by Iran, 100%. So let's put it this way. Lebanon is an Iranian colony, and so is the one next to it, Assad's Syria. And that also is controlled by Hezbollah and Iran, and has nothing but massive hatred for the Jewish people, and has engaged in every major war against Israel. And right now, they're doing cheap shots. Right now, they're doing bombings over the border from Hezbollah and Syria, and they're hitting targets in northern Israel, not very hard and not very successfully. Meanwhile, Israel is hitting back successfully. They are also in both those places and in Iraq, which I don't see on the map, and also in Iraq. We'll have that tomorrow. There are American bases, and they are being hit by the Iranian proxies. What are proxies? The Hezbollah, other smaller terrorist groups supported by the Iranian National Guard, maybe even supported by some of Obama's cash that he sent them. It can go a long way. A couple $100 million can go a long way. Some of that money, which was given in 2015 and 16, was used to kill Americans, because it would go clearly. A portion of it went for terrorist purposes. Iran's budget, about half of it goes for terrorist purposes. So, figured not all of Obama's money was used to kill Jews and Americans, just a lot of it. Yes, that's true. And nobody's got the guts to say it. What the hell do you give cash to a country for if they're not going to give it to a terrorist or drug dealers? You don't need cash. When I was mayor of New York, I didn't pay the bills in cash. What the hell's Obama doing sending cash in the middle of the night? I don't know. I got to be a genius to figure it out. I'm not a genius, but pretty smart. So this is Israel. Makes it look a lot bigger than it really is. You'll see tomorrow how small it is in the context. But
circle Gaza so they can see.
So here's Gaza. Gaza is just this right here. Look at that right there. That's Gaza right there. That's it. That's all of Gaza. That's Egypt. They won't let them in. Okay. There's the passage up there to Jordan. Here's Jordan, right? See Jordan? Big, right? Jordan's big, big, big. A lot of room for Palestinians there. You can't get in if you're a Palestinian. If people want to take them into America, they don't want them. They don't want them. They don't want them. They don't want them. Oh, and Iran, who's giving them lots of money, they're willing to give them a lot of money, but they want them. They don't want them. They don't even meet with them in Iran. They met with them in Moscow. We're not going to meet them. I mean, they would. That'd be like a twofer. As far as I can tell, Hamas is Sunni, and Iran is Shiite. So you got a twofer there. You got the Shiites who hate the Sunnis, and then you got the Persians who look down on the Arabs big time. So this is not a relationship of love. This is a relationship of mutual hatred. The Jewish people, way over here, the American people. That's what joined all these disparate Arab groups that would, if we went around, be killing each other. The Shiites and the Sunnis would. The major problem between Saudi Arabia and Iran is the Persian Arab problem, which then became the Shiite Sunni division. But this this part of Israel, and I think I have it approximately correct, doesn't belong. I mean, is now the Palestinian Authority. What the hell did they give up so much? They wanted fair and square in a war. It was originally supposed to be theirs. The Arabs wouldn't let them get it after they wouldn't during the war of 1947, 48, whatever. They weren't able to acquire what was given to them by the UN. So then when they were attacked in the 60s, and they had this spectacular victory. They drove the Syrians out of like the Golan Heights back into Syria. They drove the Jordanians back across the river. And they drove the Egyptians all the way back. They were heading for the Suez Canal. I don't know why we let them freaking take it. Man, America is so reserved in what we do. To call us colonialists is so stupid. But I mean, they're going across the desert like this, up in there. So this is the Golan Heights.